Why do PhD students have to teach? I think that's an important question that you might be curious about. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I wanted to pay the favor for to help you out as much as I possibly can. All right, so there's two reasons, or two broad reasons, why PhD students have to teach. Their name of the game is actually to do research, the same as professors. And it's the same as, the same basics or premise that we have to go through and to think about. I didn't teach during my PhD program, but I think it was a bit of a mistake. I should have taught one course because it was actually hard to get a job. So that is the main reason why they actually teach, and they should only teach one or two courses, and that's it, is to actually get a job. And what you're trying to do is actually demonstrate to the broader community that you are capable of doing this one kind of task that you're doing. Now remember, the whole infrastructure of most university systems is sort of set up for research. And so that part of it usually is just like, and I hate to say this, a lot of people don't like to hear this, but teaching is pretty cursory in terms of what we actually do. That's not the top priority at most major institutions around the world. It is really doing that research. But what we're doing with teaching is diffusing the knowledge of what we actually got when we are doing the research, right? And that's the basic principle. And so what you're trying to do is actually signal to the market. It's more of a signaling thing than anything, that you have this capability of actually being able to teach. So that's the challenge with it, right? So this is the challenge from the PhD student side, is that you're doing the signaling aspect of it. And that signaling aspect, it could go either really well and you do really well, or it could go really bad. And then if it goes bad, then it's hard to sort of signal to the market that you're capable. So it's you can get mixed signals when you're doing that. And that's the tricky thing. And I was at an institution, so I went to the Ivy Business School, and they really focus on teaching. So they were a little bit nervous with letting me, I was 20, been 28, 29, but that's how I was capable of doing this. And I would have been teaching people my age. So they were nervous, rightfully so, in terms of what I was going to do and how I was going to perform. Now, I did TA a little bit, but that's not the same thing as being an instructor in front of a class. There's a really big difference in terms of what is going on, right? So I want you to sort of imagine that. So it's just that signaling aspect that you're capable of being able to stand up in front of the classroom. And then the other side of it, and what ends up happening is there's a lot of little courses that are not necessarily like the mainstream courses that professors teach, right? So we get kind of the things that we teach. And the reason why we have these things that we teach, right? So I teach innovation mostly, but I taught strategy. I've taught all sorts of different kinds of courses. But every time you teach a different course, it's called a new prep. And all of those new preps consume a lot of time and a lot of effort. And every time that you do that, it pulls away from all sorts of other activities that you're supposed to be doing that are related to research. And so we like to streamline. Many institutions are moving towards a really streamlined thing where they're only teaching, at the best institutions, you might be teaching one or two courses a year, and that's it. And if you're highly ranked, influential person, you'd be teaching one course. I teach four, but that's the standard is what's called a 2-2, right? So you're teaching 2-2. But they're moving towards this where you're teaching just one course or two courses. That is the general sort of practice that's happening, is becoming increasingly more so with this across the board, because it's ratcheting up. The research demands are ratcheting up across the board, and it's hard to do that. So as a new professor, what you're going to get out, and you're only going to teach a couple of courses anyways, that's a good teaching load is somewhere around where you're teaching 3 courses throughout the year, and it's the same course over again. And it might be just you're compressing all of these different sections together, and that would actually be a pretty good outcome in terms of teaching multiple courses all at once. So what they're trying to do on the administrative side, right? So the university side has these kind of little courses. they might try to fill those courses with PhD students or with other graduate students, or maybe it's an adjunct professor that is doing sort of different things. So it's kind of a really good structure, is that there is a couple of core courses that are being taught by the core faculty, and then all these other little courses that are not like irrelevant. They're just like, they're one-offs, and the one-offs could be still really important. They could be something like teaching that's pretty fundamental. It's just that it pulls away from activities for that one person. So that builds the capabilities for the PhD students, right? And that's a good thing. And sort of demonstrates to the outside world that you're actually okay as an instructor, but then sort of fills these little demands that it's hard to fill some of these things, right? It's hard to sort of build that case for it. So that's the important thing to remember, is that it's a matching thing, right? Of finding the right sort of fit for those who want to participate, and every PhD student probably has different flares and different tastes and stuff, so they can get different courses. And that's the way it should be, right? Is that there is this kind of matching thing that goes on. So it's important to teach a little bit, but not a lot. And the reason why you don't want to teach a lot is because it's going to pull away from research. And that just takes an awful lot of time and a lot of effort to do a good job at any research. It really, really is tough. But you have to demonstrate to the market. It's not, so here's the trouble, right? And this is somewhat of a problem to some degree, is that there isn't sort of a teaching, path, I would say, right? Like you don't get taught to teach and things like that. At least at most institutions I know of, there's not like a real big teaching thing that you would do. Maybe they'd have a couple of like little side courses and things like that, but nothing like that you're being taught how to do instruction. And so that is a challenge that you kind of learn as you go, which is, it's pros and cons either way. I can see benefits in both of them. And so both sides of that. So you just have to, it's not enough to demonstrate that you're actually a really good teacher. And that's okay. And I think, in my personal opinion, I don't think that you definitely get better. But at the same time, I don't think that there is a lot of variance within individuals over time. There's lots of things that happen along the way in terms of the student-teacher relationships that you actually develop. And so it's a tricky thing to sort of, I don't think teaching is as much as a science as what many people would sort of think. It's very much an art that is also very much a flair based on your own individual flares and things like that. So, all right, take care, and hopefully you learned something. Give me one of these. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.